The reading this morning, and you'll have to stay with me on this one, is Cultivating Trust as an Organizing Strategy, Lessons from Mycelium Mushrooms. Not those kind of mushrooms. By Adaku Uta from Let the Choir Say Wow, an online zine to accompany Adrienne Marie Brown's book, Emergent Strategy, Shaping Change, Changing Worlds. Mycelium mushrooms have been one of my greatest teachers of trust. The word mycelium means more than one. The mycelium organism is a dynamic root system of mushrooms that utilizes trust as a mechanism to build and sustain a vast reciprocal underground network that connects the roots of trees and plants and skillfully shares nutrients and resources to support the health of the entire ecosystem with which it moves. The mycelial network cannot exist without trust. The mycelium communication highway recognizes and believes in the collective ability to channel and receive nutrients where needed, to protect against parasites, and to expand roots into necessary sites of growth. You see where we're going with this? The network process also fosters intergenerational relationships that welcome the myriad of ancient wisdom and connections that reside in older trees to benefit younger trees. These mushrooms affirm a commitment to building relationships of trust that encourage all life to bloom. One that I aspire to embody more and more in her organizing practice. It takes courage to bring our trust forward and invite another person to meet us there. This sometimes sure, often shaky surrender is an opportunity to discover something deeper than the confines of our individual experience. A catalyst to grow beyond ourselves, to find the places where love can exist even when we are unsure of the destination. To embrace a kind of faith brave enough to yield a wider focus, often unseen with a singular lens. Cultivating trust is an organizing strategy. It illuminates the distinct potential to generate meaningful communication, yield collaboration grounded in sustenance, bolster collective commitment, and acknowledge competence and worth. Trust intercepts blame and attack and invites care and compassion to take the lead. It takes the time to ensure that practices are aligned with values. In times of crisis, trust knows that you won't intentionally be hurt by comrades. It relies on our imagination's harvest and initiates possibility filled with hope and inspiration. It encourages us to delegate and share our work so imbalance dissolves and burnout fades. Trust invites us to come together for the sake of collective liberation. Thus ends the reading.
I'm going to lean in pretty heavily to this mushroom theme because it turns out mushrooms are magical. I was curious when I started really delving into this reading, and I've been holding this reading with me for months now, reflecting on it over and over again and waiting for exactly the right moment to bring it forward. But I was curious, what does a mycelium system look like? I had a hard time kind of grasping it. So I Googled mycelium networks, and this is what I discovered. Images of mushrooms like that. They look familiar to me, although still a wee bit mysterious. And then I learned about what they look like underground. This is wonderful. Next slide. The next slide. Take a look. Oh, this is the subterranean tendrils entangled with each other. An image of an underground fleshy explosion of mycelium networks, the burrowing of roots of mushrooms, webs of branching out into those super highways of connection to plants and trees in a world of wild mutuality. This picture I find really beautiful and stirring. It caught my attention because it's hard to imagine when we're on this side of the soil what it looks like down there. So I kept Googling. And then I found this. This is a sketch of a mycelium network, and it reminded me when I looked at it of the structure of a lung. And it makes me imagine mushrooms breathing life into the earth, breathing life into our world. It's easy to get enchanted by the mysterious charm of mycelium networks, even as they rest just beneath us, waiting for us to pay attention, begging us to pay attention and to lean close to them, to touch and feel the soft breath of the earth on our cheeks and surrender to the wisdom. Adako Uta, in her gorgeous reflection on mushrooms, challenges us to harmonize our human lives with the teachings of the earth and recenter what is most critical and essential to our flourishing and our freedom. We are invited to notice that we are also entangled in an ecosystem of relationship and mutuality, that we too are strengthened, nourished, and empowered by love and trust, and we too can create a human network that encourages all of life to thrive inside networks and communities of love and trust. This strikes me as a revolutionary suggestion. We live in a world in which trust is persistently broken and betrayed publicly and privately, and building trust in brands is more important than building trust in leaders. Trust is commodified on the market and abandoned in many of our political spaces, and there is a collective slipping into cynicism. I feel it too. And yet, there is hope just beneath our feet. What if we organized our lives around a trust rooted in systems of mutuality and exchange, the power of our relationships to connect us in care, support, and love, just like these beautiful, amazing mycelium networks? I believe this congregation has the potential to live fully into this imagination of beloved community. Yesterday, a whole bunch of us gathered to listen and learn and open towards this wonderful emergent shared ministry we are creating together. Our conversation was facilitated by Reverends Sarah Gibb-Millspaugh and Tanya Marquez, who brought insight and grounding to our work together as we explored what is most important to you as a community. And I know not everyone could attend yesterday, and that's okay. We recorded the session and we'll host small groups of viewings of the workshop so as many people as possible can participate in the conversation. Just to give you a sense of how dynamic the conversation was yesterday, we had a sweet local visitor join us. And this was sent to me after our meeting with the heading, potential new member, ? There he is. I don't know if you can see it, but we had a little deer who insisted on peering into our workshop all afternoon. It was so sweet. Thank you to the person who sent me this. Is that person here today? Oh, I love surprise gifts. Well, I'll keep asking. But it reminded me, even in that moment, when we are gathering together to explore who we are together, that we're never alone, and that the network of mutuality and interdependence in which we live goes beyond our walls. Even the deer are excited to be here. One of the goals of the day was to surface how trust is created and sustained and nourished by the congregation. I heard you share that in this community, trust looks like transparency, mutuality, collaboration, and clear channels of communication. In our discussions, we noticed what was sacred and holy in our congregation, like the many artifacts in our sanctuary that were lovingly designed and crafted over the years, traditions like joys and sorrows, Christmas services, and your commitment to welcoming people in the community. I heard you over and over again celebrate the beauty of relationships and friendships that have taken root over many years, sprouting greater connections, reaching out into the world with our ministries. I heard you share that it's important for you to grow into the future holding tradition close while welcoming change and vibrancy, a future that locates trust at the very center of congregational life. It reminds me of another emergent strategy principle which encourages communities to, quote, move at the speed of trust, focus on critical connections and not critical mass. The emphasis on trust invites us to reimagine change and growth from a perspective of the mushroom. Trust emerges when we create the communities where relationships of reciprocity, mutual exchange are tangible. And we privilege, quote, network process that also fosters intergenerational relationships that welcome the many forms of ancient wisdom and connections that reside in older trees and benefit younger trees. Focusing on critical connections invites all of us to co-create a future together, planting the roots of relationship deep into the earth, roots that support the whole community, ensuring that we survive the blustery winds of change that might otherwise knock us down. So I kept Googling, and I learned another cool fact about mycelium networks. Under the right conditions, mushrooms can grow exponentially, thriving and flourishing, nourishing the spaces they expand into with relationships of sustainable mutuality. Under the right conditions, the growth is unstoppable. The challenge before us in the year ahead as individuals and as a community is to keep feeding the conditions in which trust and love thrive, encouraging networks of communication and mutuality that sustain our critical connections so we might meet the world with our mission, our life-saving, life-affirming message of love and justice. And we can do this. We can do this by continuing to practice listening circles, town halls, centering curiosity as we learn and grow together, anchored into our commitments and organizing ourselves with trust. Beloveds, Let us journey together, moving at the speed of trust, growing beyond ourselves, searching for the places where love can exist even when we are unsure of the destination. May it be so, and blessed be.